Got some wisdom for you gentlemen today. Don't be a hothead until it serves you to be so. And I'll explain more about when the time is appropriate for that towards the end of the video. So be sure to stick around so you can catch when it's okay to be a hothead. In the meantime, this has been my single greatest downfall in my life. It's been the biggest detractor for my relationships. It has caused the most problems for me, especially with the people that I care for the most in this world. And so you've probably heard in church, almost certainly heard in school, that you have 2 ears, 1 mouth. That way you can listen twice as much as you talk. So that's something that took me a very, very long time to realize that, and it didn't take me long to realize the consequences of not listening and opening my mouth before I should have. The consequences came very quick. It's taken me a very long time to learn how to temper these things. I'm going to give you guys 3 actionable steps here in just a couple minutes. But first, I want to touch on the first problems and probably the biggest problem is that it's easy to get emotional when you're rushing in to defend yourself, either defending yourself against accusations or someone saying something you know is absolutely not true, and you know that you're in the right on these things. Very, very easy to be very emotional and jump in and defend yourself. The decibels seem to go high, and the foul language can start, and more forceful language, not necessarily foul, but in a lot of cases more forceful language, and that can really be a detractor to and a hindrance between either coming to an understanding or the close relationship you might have with someone that is close to you that you're having the disagreement with. So I have a long way to go on this, and so you guys are stuck on this journey with me. And I think because of the consequences and the experience I have of the relationships that have been burnt by forcefully defending myself, I think there's a lot that you guys can learn from me, as the Bible says that the wise learn from the fool. Well, the fool has to learn it on their own. You guys can go ahead and search that one up. I'm not going to give you guys any Bible verses at this point in time, but it is nonetheless very smart information that I wish I had done more with when I was younger. The first actionable step is don't raise your voice. So this can be difficult, especially as tensions start to fly back and forth between you and the other party. But if you can keep at a calm, keel, even level, then you can usually keep the conversation from spiraling and diffusing out of control, especially if you can very calmly, and sometimes this will actually make people even more upset. If you can very calmly just say, hey, hold on, we're not enemies here. Come back to the table with me. Let's come back to a more reasonable level here. But you have to be the example of that for that to be able to happen. Number 2 is give yourself a second before anything comes out of your mouth. So maybe take a second to think about what the other person has proposed to you. Definitely take a second before you retort, because it's very easy to retort when you can in fact actually respond out of some wisdom or some experience that you've had that pertains exactly to this conversation. So just take a second before you say anything. Just take a second. And the third thing is be willing to internalize that you are wrong. So maybe they're right. Maybe they've caught you a couple times with this thing that they're accusing you of, and not necessarily an action, but maybe just a reaction, that you get reactive and you get defensive. And so maybe internalize that. Maybe sit there for a second and think, you know what, I can think of this and this instance when that was true, and therefore it may not always happen, but you know, there's some validity to what this person is saying. So those are the 3 things, the absolute 3 things that have helped me the most in my journey. I've got in a previous video, I'll go ahead and link that at the end of the video here. I touch on that briefly about if you can have a discourse with somebody else and you can keep things calm and at least you not lose control, then at least not necessarily the person you're talking to, because they just may be so angered with you, it may not matter, but people externally outside of the conversation, or even third parties that may have something to say and input into the conversation, will look at you as the wiser, more sage, more sane, and less reactive person. And so there's can be some external benefits to this too for outside onlookers that see what you're doing. Now, what I did say is that there would be a time where it is okay to be a hothead. And when I was training with I spent a lot of time training with the freestyle freestyle defensive arts guys. And one thing that we did do a lot of practicing on is when someone is advancing on you, you can sometimes shake people to their core just by simply yelling out, "Stop!" and then getting them a very, very aggressive, "Hey, I'm not messing around. I will get physical if I have to." And sometimes it gives you enough time, it shakes them enough for you to get away, or you can just let them know that you're serious. We can get maybe into this in another conversation in the future. I love training self-defense, and it goes everything from a person's psyche to their physical health to their technique. And those are things we can touch on here in the future. But there are situations where it's okay to be a hothead, especially if you're in a life-endangering situation. So please check out the other video that I'll have linked here at the very end. And I'm your guy, Kenny B of E3, aka Kinetics, the guide to helping you be the hero of your story. You guys have a great night.